You've probably heard the term privacy incident thrown around a lot, right? But what does it really mean? I can tell you, it's not always some dramatic Hollywood-style hack. More often than not, it's something a lot quieter and a lot closer to home. So in this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain on what a real privacy incident actually looks like. So when you hear that phrase, what's the first thing that pops into your head? A hacker in a hoodie sitting in some dark room? A massive data breach hitting some global corporation? Yeah, hold on to that thought. Because while the myth is all about those huge, headline-grabbing cyber attacks, the reality is, well, it's usually way quieter than that. It's often just a simple personal mistake, a single wrong click that ends up having some pretty serious consequences. And make no mistake, a quiet little error can cause just as much emotional, financial, and legal damage as a major hack. Okay, let's get on the same page and build a clear understanding that goes way beyond just hacking. What are we really talking about when we use the term privacy incident? Here's the textbook definition, and the key word I want you to focus on is any. This is so important. It's not just about theft. It's an incredibly broad term that covers basically any situation where personal data lands somewhere it shouldn't be, or gets used in a way it was never supposed to be. And this just shows you how wide that net is cast. We're talking everything from accidentally sharing a file to straight up not following your own privacy rules. You start to see the common threads, right? Human error, weak policies, outdated systems. It's not always about some evil genius trying to break in. All right, enough with the theory. Let's make this real. We're going to dive into 4 real-world scenarios from completely different fields. And these stories really show how easily this stuff can happen in pretty much any workplace. First up, we've got a classic. This is the kind of scenario that is probably every HR professional's worst nightmare. And it all starts with a totally normal task: sending out information about salary increases. And here it is, the simple, devastating mistake: attaching the entire folder instead of just one single file. Boom. Instantly, one employee has the keys to the kingdom: confidential salary and performance data from more than 30 of their coworkers. Can you just imagine the chaos? Trust is completely shattered. Resentment builds, and the company is now facing a massive legal risk. And it wasn't a sophisticated hack, it was a simple drag-and-drop error. So how could this have been avoided? Honestly, it just comes down to having better processes. Things like using a secure portal instead of email, locking down access to sensitive files, and, building a culture where everyone double-checks before they hit send. These aren't super complex fixes, but they stop these catastrophic failures before they start. Okay, our second incident takes us from human error to the misuse of technology. This one involves something we're all seeing more and more: smart cameras in a retail store. So in this case, a store set up facial recognition to track its customers, but they did it completely silently. No signs, no consent forms, nothing. The privacy impact here is huge. They're collecting biometric data. We're talking the literal structure of people's faces unlawfully, and then sharing it with another company. This puts them in direct violation of major privacy laws like GDPR. The prevention here is all about transparency and justification. You've got to have a clear notice telling people what you're doing, and you have to ask yourself, do we really need this sensitive data? Crucially, before you even think about deploying tech like this, you have to do something called a privacy impact assessment to fully understand the risks involved. Our third story brings us into the world of healthcare, where the stakes for personal data are just incredibly high. This incident is all about moving records to the cloud, something tons of places are doing, but it comes with some hidden dangers. The cause here was shockingly simple: a single misconfigured setting on a cloud folder. That's it. But the impact was absolutely catastrophic.
Thousands of highly sensitive patient records, diagnoses, medications, you name it, were left completely exposed on the open internet for weeks. The damage to patient trust from something like this is almost impossible to fix.
This is where your technical safeguards are completely non-negotiable. We're talking about strict access controls, encrypting the data so it's gibberish even if someone gets it, and running regular audits to catch these kinds of misconfigurations before they turn into a public disaster. It's absolutely essential. For our last case, we're heading over to a university where researchers are grappling with a really complex problem. How do you share data for the public good without destroying individual privacy? Now, the university thought they were doing everything right. They took out all the names from a student mental health data set before they published it. But here's the catch. When you start combining other little data points, like age, gender, and major, you can often figure out exactly who each record belongs to. This is called re-identification risk, and it turned a well-intentioned research project into a really serious privacy incident. Preventing this requires a whole other level of expertise. It's not just about deleting a column with names in it. It means using much stronger anonymization methods and actually stress testing the data to see if you can re-identify people. It also means bringing in privacy experts right from the very beginning of a project. So, these examples show how incidents can happen in all sorts of different ways, but they all share one thing in common. People are always the first line of defense. So, how can you spot a potential incident before it spirals out of control? Here are some of the big red flags to watch for. Think about it. Have you ever gotten an email with data that you just knew you weren't supposed to see? Or watched a coworker ask for information without a good reason? Even a missing work laptop is a potential incident. The advice here is really simple. If something feels off, you've got to report it. It's always better to be cautious than to ignore a potential disaster. Okay, so let's say an incident is spotted and someone reports it. What happens then? Well, organizations can't just wing it. There's a formal, structured response plan that they absolutely must follow. And this is the standard 5-step plan. It all starts with containment. You've got to stop the bleeding right away. Then comes assessment, where you figure out exactly what happened and who was affected. Notification is next, and this one is often on a tight deadline. Some laws, like GDPR, require you to report to the authorities within 72 hours. After that, it's remediation, fixing the root problem so it can't happen again. And finally, documentation, to make sure there's a clear record for legal and compliance reasons. So what's the single most important thing to take away from all this? There's one theme that runs through every single example we've looked at today. The big takeaway is this. Privacy isn't just the job of the legal department or the IT team, it's everyone's responsibility. From the HR exec sending that email to the researcher publishing a data set, every single employee plays a critical role. So the question I'll leave you with is this. In your own workplace, is sensitive data just one wrong click, one misconfigured folder, or one bad decision away from becoming a privacy incident?